Hi there, it's Gina Gardiner here, and I'm really pleased to welcome you to this my live video challenge. 30 days, all to promote actually my mission in life. And my mission is to positively impact on 1 million people within the next 5 years. So one of the things that I think makes such a difference to our life, let me just put something that I need to do. Bear with me. Okay. So I want to talk today about laughter. I actually don't think that there is enough laughter going on in the world. And I want to explore with you how powerful this is and how important it is to actually make sure that you find every opportunity to laugh at what's going on, to laugh with people, to laugh at yourself and not take yourself too seriously. One of the things that laughter creates is an incredible antidote to stress. When we're stressed, we go into a place of survival and our bodies emit a whole range of hormones, the three biggest of which are adrenaline, hydrocortisone, and cortisol. And those are the hormones which allow us to escape. If you look at gazelles running away from a lion, for example, as soon as they see a threat, then their bodies produce those hormones. The first thing, if you were watching them, that you would be able to see is that they empty their bowels. And they do that because 60% of our blood flow goes to help digest our food. That blood then is sent around the body, the blood pressure goes up, the heart starts to pump to get glucose and to get oxygen to the muscles in order for that flight to take place. The challenge in modern day living is we don't, generally speaking, run away from things. The threat is a perceived one and not a real one. Well, real in the sense that it makes us unhappy, it makes us anxious, but not that we're going to be eaten. At least for most of us, it's not that we're going to be eaten. Those hormones stay in our bodies at low levels, but they build. And if they're not actually burnt off, and the best way the animal burns it off is by running away. So the two antidotes, the first is exercise. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because you're actually mimicking the running away from the predator. But the other one, and one I think which is much undervalued, is that of laughter. When we laugh, there are a whole range of hormones that get produced then. Those are dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, the feel-good hormones. And so when we laugh, they act as the antidote to the other hormones. Now, it can be watching a television program. It can be laughing at the cat or the dog doing something silly. The important thing is to laugh and to actually embrace that laughter and allow those hormones to kick in. Regular opportunities to laugh make sure that your body is bathed with those good hormones. And I would suggest to you that laughter and playfulness go together. When we laugh with someone, or we're laughing and sharing a television program, sharing the humour in that, there is great positivity that comes from it, both for us and the people that we're sharing it with. When we laugh at someone, it's very, very different, and that's quite destructive. It might, in the moment, make us feel better about ourselves, but it does nothing to make the person who's the butt of our joke feel better. And over time, it doesn't do us any good either, because it diminishes our sense of compassion and kindness. How often do you find opportunities to laugh? When was the last time that you laughed to the point when you cried? When you had that giggle bubble up inside you and that you found that it broke out and there was nobody but you aware of how powerful that felt, that sounded. There are people who find it very easy to laugh, and others who will give a contained smile or a very quiet chuckle. But the more you engage with it, the more powerful the impact is. But I think for me, not only is it useful to know that when you're watching or listening to something that makes you laugh, that that actually has the power. But for me, I think it's the capacity to laugh at yourself. And I've had plenty of opportunity to laugh at myself, but to do that in a kind and compassionate way, to laugh at the situation. Those of you that know me will know that I'm a wheelchair user, and that certainly brought up a number of situations which were border on the ridiculous. They weren't comfortable, but they were ridiculous. I'm going to share with you some stories, partly because I want you to recognize that by laughing around the things that are going on, that you lighten the situation. They don't feel so desperate. You don't feel fear if you're laughing, so long as that's a full-blooded laugh and not a nervous cackle. So the stories I want to share with you are initially around issues with the wheelchair. Those of you that have read Chariots on Fire will know that I was in America doing a course when we were talking about asking for help, something which in the past I've found incredibly difficult to do. A day later, I was given an opportunity to really discover how asking for help can be very necessary and actually can be really humorous too. The course had finished and I decided to stay in Santa Monica, no, it wasn't Santa Monica, near Los Angeles, doesn't matter where it was. And I decided to go to the local mall. I wanted to buy some Christmas presents. Off I went in my electric wheelchair, and the mall was a couple of miles away. Did my shopping, came back fully laden, and hadn't quite twigged how long the drive to the hotel was, nor how steep. When I was coming down it, it hadn't seemed too bad. The trouble was that the wheelchair was running out of battery, and the final straw was the fact that it was pushing my very big wheelchair and me up the hill. And about a third of the way up, it just conked out. So there I am. My mobile phone signal wasn't working. I'm in the wheelchair in the middle of the road. There's nobody about, and I think, what do I do? I can't walk back to the hotel. At that time, I could only manage a very few steps. Within a few minutes, a taxi had come racing up the drive, and the taxi driver stopped. He spoke Spanish. My Spanish is pretty non-existent. I can say muchas gracias, and that's about it, really. And through sign language, I showed him the problem. It was pretty evident, really. So he parked his taxi and he started to push my wheelchair uphill. Not easy. Very few minutes later, a second taxi arrived. The taxi driver got out, the two taxi drivers spoke, and the taxi driver from the second taxi went to the taxi and talked to his passengers. There were two of them. They got out and they started to push him, pushing me, pushing the wheelchair. Then another car and another, until there were 17 people pushing the wheelchair. Any embarrassment that I'd had about asking for help was well and truly gone. Everybody was huffing and puffing and laughing. As we got back close to the hotel, there was a huge audience watching the spectacle, and everybody was laughing because it looked so ridiculous. My embarrassment was dissolved by the very fact that I was in a situation that was really comical. The wheelchair has provided a number of different opportunities for me to laugh at myself and my predicament. Now, if I go and stay at a hotel, I always go into great detail, asking before I go, is the hotel accessible? And more often than not, they say yes, and if they don't, I don't book to go there. So I went to Brighton, which is a seaside place for those of you that don't know it, and we were staying at the Ship Hotel. Now, it was quite an old hotel, and they'd said, yes, no problem, fully accessible. And then we got to park. You couldn't get in the back way. We had to come round the front. And then there was a problem because there was a flight of steps to get into the hotel. My sister, who was with me, I don't know what I'd have done if I'd been on my own, but my sister, who was with me, went to the front desk and said, "We checked to see if this hotel is accessible. Can you help me?" And he said, "It's not a problem. It is accessible." She came down to wait with me, and then the windows, which must have been about 10 feet above us, opened, and two planks came out. Two long planks came out. The next thing we knew, there was a guy who'd arrived, and he said, "I'll push you up the planks." Now, I was very nervous about this and not at all happy that that was their view of acceptable. But I had two choices. I could have made my sister pack us back in the car and for us to go home, or I could have made the best of it. And I saw the fact that the situation was pretty ridiculous, and so we started to laugh. And in doing so, that took away that hurt, that real sense of frustration, that despite calling the hotel, I was put in a situation where I was being pushed up two ramps, two planks, very, very steep planks, by this guy who was obviously very strong and quite used to doing this. I wasn't the first person by any means that they'd done it for. But by finding the humour in the situation, I found that actually it became much less of an issue, much more manageable. Laughter is one of those things which brings light and joy. And I think, when you watch the news, when you see what's going on in the world, lots of people will say to you, "I don't find very much to laugh at." And yet there can be huge humour in even the most desperate situations. The day my mum died, and she died in the early hours of the morning, and my sister and my brother and my dad were all there. And my mum had been battling with cancer for 2 years. Now, you might say to yourself, there's nothing to laugh about that. We were desperately sad. And as we left the hospital and we went into the car park, it was by this time about 5 o'clock in the morning. It was empty, it was eerie. And my brother, and excuse my language, my brother was not noted for his reverence about anything, let out the most tremendous fart, which resounded round the car park. And we found ourselves just giggling, and the giggling became more and more intense. And it relieved the tension, that it helped us in that moment of desperate sadness to laugh at something that was just so ridiculous and so typically my brother. Move on now that we're in the funeral car, again at my mum's funeral. My sister-in-law is there. We were talking about thongs, and we were talking about flip-flop thongs. And my sister was recounting a story about my mum who had said that there was no way that she was going to wear thongs, and my sister had got her to try them. My sister-in-law started to giggle, and we said, "What's so funny?" She was thinking of thongs being the cheese grater knickers, and she couldn't see my mum using those. And once again, the tension and the sadness was broken by the fact that we were able to laugh. So when have you found that laughter has broken the spell, broken the tension, made things possible for you to manage it more effectively? How often do you look for the opportunity to find the humour in things? Because if you look for it, it's there. If you don't look for it, well, you're unlikely to find it. So for me, the two big issues around laughter is, one, it's the most incredibly good stress buster. And it's one of the things that I recommend to clients who come to me because they are stressed or depressed or just feeling that life's a bit tough. Look for the opportunities, manufacture them. Find a favourite programme that you like to watch that makes you laugh. Those of you that are old enough to remember Harry Seacombe will know that he had a chuckle. And I can remember both my parents, rolling about simply because Harry Seacombe had laughed. If you're looking for inspiration for laughing, go onto YouTube and watch there's lots of films of animals doing silly things or babies chuckling. And I find that if you listen to people chuckling, then it's very easy to join in. I once went to Cirque du Soleil, and we were in Las Vegas. My sister was with me, and part of the show was a man dressed as a baby, and he was being the baby, and he was giggling, and my sister would then start giggling, and you found that it was completely and utterly infectious. Perhaps I've got a family that see the humour in everything, I don't know, but it's a really helpful one. When I was at school, I was in the school choir. I've always loved singing, and I used to find that my parents were incredibly embarrassing. Something had happened in the concert, and I could see my mum was laughing, and all of the chairs were attached to one another. And as my mum laughed, and she was jogging about laughing, so the people next to her found that they were laughing too. And gradually I could see this row begin to shake with laughter. And I knew exactly who had started it all off. It was my mum, because she'd seen something that she just found amusing. Laughter lightens the situation. It helps us feel more resourceful, that we can better cope with whatever it is that life is bringing. The important thing is that you laugh with people and not at them. Sarcasm and laughing at people is hurtful. And not only does it hurt the person that you're laughing at, but it also erodes your sense of being a kind and compassionate person. In the moment, it might make you feel better. But in my experience, if you are somebody who laughs at other people, it's usually to make you feel better. So, Anne, thanks for joining us. She says that having been in hospital and been very poorly, that she found that by watching video clips, it actually lightened her load, lightened the moment. And I can really recommend that you do it. So let us know, what are the things that how have you used laughter to help you through difficult times? I've had times when I've been very ill. I've had times when incredibly frustrated because of my lack of access into places, or my lack of ability. Grief. It doesn't really matter what you're facing. It's not that you're making light of the situation, but it's making light of your capacity to deal with the situation. It's helping you to feel more resourced, and actually it will help the people around you. So I'd love to know, what are the things that make you laugh? Who are your favourite comedians? Michael McIntyre is mine, and having been to see him live, he's just as funny live as he is on the telly, if not more so. Know the things that make you laugh, and when you're feeling down, make sure that you've got them on tape and access them. It can really help if you use it. And the more you use laughter in that way, the more your body will respond to it, the more your emotions will respond to it, because it will become an anchor. So as soon as you switch on to that particular program or that particular video, your brain will think, I know what's coming. This is going to be light. This is going to give me some relief from whatever it is I'm feeling that's difficult to deal with. Now, I'd like to share with you why I'm doing these videos. As I say, this is a mission, 30 videos, and the mission that I have set myself up as a challenge, I want to positively impact on 1 million people within the next 5 years. It's a humongous mission, but I want to do the best I can with your help to help people feel better about themselves, to have a greater sense of self-belief, to feel more positive, to feel happier and better resourced so they can deal with life in general. If you look at the news, if you read the newspapers, there is so much that's negative going on in our world. We need to provide an antidote to that. We need things that will make us feel that we can cope, and things that will bring us together rather than things which are divisive. If you're somebody who would like to really step into your power, to recognize that you have the most amazing potential when you choose to use it, and then use that to help other people reach their potential, then come and join me. Share this video. Come and join Genuinely You. It's a Facebook group where we will together make some changes. If you'd like a free digital download of my book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success and Fulfillment, you can get a free digital download by going to my website, genuinely-you.com. And there you'll also find the link, and I've put the link in the comments as well, to try out the Thrive Together membership just for $1. You can try it out for a month and see whether it suits you. And this is a group of people who want to support and validate one another, who are there for one another so that you can feel truly seen and heard. Come and explore it. There's lots and lots of resources. There is a structured development course and so much more. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you very much for joining me today. Make sure that today that you find at least some opportunity to laugh, to lighten your day, and if possible, to share your laughter with others and lighten their day too. So thanks a lot. If you listen to this as a replay, please let us know what you do that makes you laugh, that lightens your day, and let us share it. If there's a link to a particular video that you found very funny, then please share that with us. But thanks so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.